I'm Nicole Franklin. I'm a registered dietitian here with American Oncology Network. Today we're in the kitchen. We are cooking a recipe that is going to help us on days when we can't figure out what to eat. You know, we get this question all the time from patients. It's like everything they normally gravitate towards just doesn't taste good, or it's not what they thought it would be. And it can be a little harder than you think to kind of venture outside of that box. So I'm hoping this corn salad is going to be something a little different, but really delicious that we can incorporate into our meals. So I'm going to get us started with the corn. The corn's the kind of the star of the show. The recipe calls for roasting it. So what you can do is just take your corn, roast it on the grill, let it cool, chuck it, and then we get to the part I want to show you about is how to take the kernels off of the cob. So I find that if I have a bowl like this, just it's got to be pretty big side, and then I put another bowl inside of it. So this is an ice cream bowl. I just put it inside of it. You want to cut the end off of your cob so it stands up like this, and then all you do is you just kind of take your knife and you just sort of whittle down so it falls literally right in the bowl. I've seen them do this actually with a bundt pan. So instead of having this, they just put it on top of the bundt pan. But it helps you a little bit, just keep those kernels a little bit more contained. So with that corn, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna kind of step over to the stove because I've got my corn here cooking. I had 4 cobs of fresh corn. So I put that in there, and then to that, I added a roasted corn that I found frozen. So you can literally make this recipe any time of the year, whether you have frozen corn or you have fresh corn, you can do it anytime. I've got it over here. I just wanted to get, kind of like browned. I want it to not be super, raw. And then I'm adding one of our kind of ingredients that is a little unexpected, which are green beans. So these are raw. Again, I found them at the grocery store, and then I just trimmed them, and I cut them into, maybe 1.5 inch pieces or so. And then I'm just gonna add it straight into here. I like my green beans to have a little bit of a cook to them. I don't necessarily want it to be raw. It could be if that's, the way you care for it, but I'm just gonna kind of stir it in with my corn. I'm going to add a little bit of salt and pepper, and I have just a little bit of olive oil in here. So again, I'm just going to let that go. I'm going to grab my pepper and just season it just a little bit. And again, this is a step. If you roasted your corn, you may be able to skip this step. But if you're pulling from like a frozen corn, I think it would be a really nice, thing to just go ahead and throw it in the pan. I'm going to let that cook. And I wanted to show you too, I found some frozen green beans that would work really well in this, also if you don't have that kind of, if they're not in season or they're not available. So while that's going, I am going to show you kind of how to assemble the salad. It's pretty simple. We're going to start with some 1 whole red pepper. I washed it, I seeded it, and I cut it into like a pretty small little dice, but just 1 pepper in there. And to that, I am going to add about 2 cups or so of tomatoes. I can find these almost all year at the store. I find that the cherry tomatoes and the grape tomatoes work best because they hold their shape a little bit better than if it were like a larger tomato trying to cut it. With this, I literally just cut them in half. They will kind of wilt down a little bit though. That's one thing. If you're going to make this ahead of time, leave those tomatoes until right before you serve. So I've got this in here. It's beautiful color. And I'm going to add another wild card. So walnuts, good source of plant protein, good source of fiber. Unexpected, right? If you're taking this, to a place where maybe there are nut allergies or sensitivities, you can absolutely leave it out. I really like it, in there. Again, it's that unexpected little pop there. Also, I got a little bit of parsley. So it's just some fresh parsley. I'm sorry, I forgot to say that's about half a cup of little chopped walnuts, about a cup or so of fresh parsley. If you don't have the fresh parsley, it's okay. I've made this many times without it, and it's just fine. If you do have it, I think it adds such a nice pretty color to it. I've got my jalapenos. These are spicy, right? So I'm not going to put it in my salad, but I'm going to leave it on the side so that people can adjust based on their preferences. But it's a really fun way to be able to kind of change a flavor profile if you like spice or if you don't. So I am going to give my corn a really quick stir while I tell you about our dressing. Our dressing is super simple. It is just lime. So I have, I just, washed and I zested one lime, and I have the juice of one lime. And all I'm going to do is I'm just going to pour it in here, just right over that. And then I am going to do about half a cup or so of goat cheese. What it's going to do when I do this is I let the heat from the corn and the beans kind of melt the cheese down. So when it melts down, it kind of looks like street corn a little bit, but it doesn't have the mayonnaise part of it. And then when you have the lime and the goat cheese, it kind of gives it that tartness that's a little bit unexpected. It's not quite as, I'll say, like, rich. So we've got this kind of set up and ready here. I'm going to check on my corn again. Again, it doesn't have to be, it's not got a lot of cooking to do, really. I just like for my beans to get a little bit, kind of have that nice bright look to them. And all I'm going to do is I'm just going to toss this in. The heat, again, from the corn, it's going to melt it. And I'm just going to stir this up. And that'll be its corn salad. So while I'm stirring, I'll tell you, this is great to take if you have like a potluck or a barbecue. It's a great one to take. It's very easy and it does keep well, in the fridge. And I don't know if you can see now how it's really, that goat cheese is kind of melting down and it's really kind of creating that dressing there. Also, again, with the parsley and the walnuts, this is a great one if you want to kind of pair it with some chicken, or maybe if you have like a fish, dish, or you have like a mahi or a salmon burger, this would be a great side dish for it. So this is really, I think for me, this is about done. It's just got a good coating of the dressing. What I'm going to do for my lunch today is I think I'm going to add some edamame to mine and a few jalapenos. So let's see here. So I'm just going to kind of, just to show, like, this is how beautiful I think it really looks with all that, like the cheese that is melted and those fun, the green beans and the walnuts. And then I just added my edamame, and I'm just going to add a couple peppers on top. So I hope that if y'all make this, I hope you enjoy it, and I hope that you find it to be a recipe that really helps you get outside of your comfort zone and try something different. And I hope that when you try it, you'll enjoy it as much as I do. Thank you for joining me today on the Teaching Kitchen, and hope to see you next time.